Ishaan Khatter, it is always so good speaking to you, but particularly this time because you are brilliant in this new BBC drama called A Suitable Boy. Firstly, how are you?
I'm doing all right. How about you, Arun?
I'm very well, thanks. Tell me what let's say the last week has been like once A Suitable Boy has started airing on BBC One, because what's crazy is you can't watch it in India, I can watch it here in the UK, and yet the whole world is
I
talking
have my
about
ways.
it. You have your ways.
Well, I mean, it's been most definitely a most unusual experience as compared to my past two experiences. Um, it feels like a release, and at the same time, it almost doesn't because we don't have the big. Also, it's my first series. I've never done anything for television before. And I think the original plan, if it weren't for the pandemic and the various lockdowns, would have been to have showcased it at a film festival or on the big screen. So we were all sort of looking forward to that, but it has to be this way. And but all in the same, I'm really excited and I'm really happy with the response from the UK, from England and Ireland. People seem to be taking to it, and it's only the first episode. There's more to it, so yeah, I'm excited.
I want to talk to you about your experience of being part of A Suitable Boy, not just the character and the story itself, but the whole process of how you became part of the series. Can you talk me through the casting process, how you were cast, how you auditioned, how you were first approached?
I received a call from Nandini Srikanstein from a gentleman called Dilip, and I was told that there is an adaptation of Suitable Boy for the BBC, and it would be directed by Meera Nair, and that immediately got my attention. This was before I had my first two releases, so I think it was in March of 2018, if I'm not wrong. And I went in. I was given a scene. I hadn't read the book prior to the audition, so I was given a scene. The character's name was Man. That was my first introduction to this ridiculously kaleidoscopic character. And I was given the holy scene, which is in fact in the first episode. And I read for that. I did it my way. I didn't have a reference, and I was told that I would receive a call back or whatever. And soon I did, and I was told that Meera Di is in town, Meera Nair, and I was asked to meet with her. It was my first meeting with her. She then briefed me about the story, gave me direction for the very first time, and she wanted to do a second round of auditions. I think all of Mumbai was auditioning for Suitable Boy at that time, and there are so many roles that there were all kinds of actors. And so I did a second set of auditions with her this time. She read with me, and by this point, having seen my first audition, she was keen on me, and she said the kindest things. I remember she said that her favorite thing in Mumbai is guava ice cream with chili powder, second only to my acting. And I was like, oh my god,
Wow.
which is a huge compliment to get from somebody like her, and especially when she's working with such fantastic actors. And so she was right off the bat. She was superbly encouraging and welcoming. And soon after that second audition, they have an entire process. The lead actors need to be sort of accepted and liked across the board. And the board was, I was told, about 90 odd people, I think, people from Lookout Point, from the BBC. And I received an email soon then, a week or two later, I think, and maybe even more than a few weeks later. And it was from Meera Di, and she said that we have to have you as Man. You are a most suitable boy. And I remember having received an email from one of the gentlemen from Lookout Point as well, saying some really kind things about it being one of the most winning auditions that he's seen. And so they were just right off the bat. They were extremely welcoming, encouraging, and then it was actually a long process of about 9 or 10 months till it actually began and got ready for shoot.
Well, let's
Because
talk about let's break it down a little bit and talk about that process, because I just want to know the gap between the first audition, getting that call to even ask you to audition, then the second audition, then a bunch of people that you've never met deciding whether you're good enough to play this part. How
Mhm.
daunting or exciting is that process for a young actor like yourself?
For me, it was. the motivation was to and you have to realize during this time also my first film released, Mirabi saw it in the US. um, a lot of stuff happened, and I was sort of busy with that. And you and I had our first interview
Yeah.
a few months before I actually auditioned for Suitable Boys. So yeah, it's been a long process. And I think for me it was about meeting with her and learning from her, getting to know how she is as a person, Miravi, that is. And once that happened, and we just had a sort of a vibration, a synergy in our first meeting. And I felt like it would be, being that how welcoming she was, and I felt like it would definitely be an experience that I would cherish. And so after that, it was really just it wasn't much of a wait. I hadn't read the source material, so again I just auditioned for the part, and it was the ball was in their court. But I hadn't read the source material, and I didn't know yet whether I wanted to do it or not. So once they decided unanimously that they would like me to play Man, they then sent me the scripts. And at the time there were 8 episodes, so I read about 500 odd pages. And then I liked it. I liked more than anything the journey of my character, and that was the draw-in for me. And of course, the knowledge that Saida Bai would be played by Tabu did more than half the work in drawing me in. So yeah, and then I kept finding out as we went about fantastic actors such as Vijay Verma, Vijay Raj sir, and Shore. So many actors that are playing amazing parts. Be it Ram Kapoor, Vinay Pathak, Amir Bashir, Manoj Pava,
It's an incredible ensemble
Rasika,
cast. Yeah.
Rasika Duggal. Yeah, they're so. I mean, and I was really excited, and I was excited that this would be done for a global audience, a wider audience. And um, and then eventually at one point I thought I wouldn't be able to do it, unfortunately, because of date issues and clashes. And but as destiny had it, it had to fall into place. And it did, and I'm ever so glad it did. I was able to shoot it between schedules for my upcoming Hindi film Khali Pili, which I'm also really excited about. But it was daunting, man. And the actually what it was the shooting schedule was more daunting than anything,
So
because
before we come on to the shooting, because we're still at the point where you've just been cast. You said to
right.
me you hadn't read the source material. Were you at all tempted to read the novel? I mean, you said you read 500 words of a script. It's 500 pages of a script. It's 1,500 pages of the novel. Did you ever consider doing that?
Exactly, and so I was tempted immediately to read the novel once I read the script, and then I found out it was 1,500 pages, and the temptation just dissolved into thin air. um, no, what it was because I'd already read the entire story, and it was distilled into those 8 episodes then, which then eventually became 6. I had the entire thing laid out for me, and also I knew what they would be retaining from the novel, and what wasn't going to be sort of delved into, and what was not going to be showcased on screen. I just figured that it would probably be best not to get too wrapped up in that. So in terms of how it helped me, I actually carried a copy of the novel with me on set in Lucknow.
Oh
And
wow.
what I would do is, usually the night before a scene, I would open up that chapter of the book and I would skim through it. And if I found anything that I thought was fascinating or that I could use in the scene, I would use it. And if I didn't, I would just go with the script and then go with an open heart to see what we could create on the day. But so I had it like a guidebook, and I could choose to refer to it or not. But that's the purpose that it served for me. With all due respect to the novel, I just found that this was my process with it on Suitable Boy. Yeah.
So now we're on set. You told me that you had the source material with you for reference or just for inspiration when needed. But talk to me
Mm-hmm.
about the experience of shooting there, being there on set, living the character of Man for, was it around 2 months you were shooting?
Yes, it was, and it was. We shot it in one fell sweep. At least for me, I had in fact 60 odd days of shoot, and it was all back to back. And yeah, I think I was there from October through December, and man, they were an exhausting 2 months. We had a lot of work to get done, and because I joined the production late, all my work had bunched up.
Right.
So I barely had any breaks. I had 18 days, 21 days at times that I was shooting back to back, and it was very demanding. And there were two units shooting constantly, at all times. So Shimit Amin, the wonderful Shimit Amin, who's directed films like Chak De, Rocket Singh, was the additional unit director. He's also edited the Reluctant Fundamentalist for Mira. So he was the second unit, the additional unit director, and a lot of the work actually, he had to do simultaneously, as Miradi's unit was at work. So there were actually days where us actors would have to juggle from one unit to the other. We would do. I had a day where I did about 12 hours of work, so an entire shift with Miradi, and then I would do a half a shift with Shimit,
So
because
how was that split up then, Ishaan? So Shimit was directing completely different scenes to what Mira was directing.
yes, he was. So that's how it worked, and it was very much under Miradi's supervision and her larger vision for the show. And they would have meetings, and gosh, I barely can imagine how they were managing it, because they would shoot their scenes for the day, meet up, group up at night, plan how she would be planning her unit, and how she would want him to go about the day. And Shimit, of course, was just wonderful help, and for her, I can imagine. And so, I mean, I got the best of both worlds. I got to work with two fantastic directors for the price of one. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you mentioned, Shimit Amin has directed Chak De India and Rocket Singh, which were both exceptional films. And particularly, I guess,
Yeah.
when you're talking about, what you've done very well in a very short span of time is balance two worlds. And nobody really expected this from you, Ishaan, when you made your debut 2 years ago. But even Beyond the Clouds was an example of you choosing an unconventional film, albeit in Hindi. It was made by an Iranian filmmaker, and then again with A Suitable Boy. This is a very much prime time being drama that I guess that a lot of people wouldn't have thought would have been up Ishaan Khatter's street, but you've proved a lot of people wrong with this. Did you have critics saying, or did you have advisors saying, look, Ishaan, you're in prime position to market yourself as this big Bollywood hero. Do you really want to do this?
I think there are a lot of things to be taken into consideration when you make a decision, especially when you have the audience's love and the audience's appreciation and expectations. Um, and it was a long time coming for me to, it took me about a year and a half to get onto set after finishing Dhadak. And that was because I wanted to do something, that I had this deep desire to do something that would satisfy my cravings as an actor. And at the same time, a bit of an idealist, at the same time be engaging, and for people to want to watch it. And I think I was well supported through my decisions, be it my team, my family, anybody who means a great deal to me, understood why I was making the decisions I was making, and they were also happy with the setups and the opportunities that I got. And yeah, so I feel that I was largely, I'm sort of predisposed to, I'm I lean towards doing things that satisfy me creatively. Um, but I do understand, and I do give prime importance to doing things that satisfy the audience. It should be engaging and exciting for the audience, not just for me as an actor. So yeah, so I feel like A Suitable Boy will be something that will be watched by largely a different audience than has watched Dhadak. But I also have a film called Kali Pili that I mentioned coming up, which I'm very excited about, because for various reasons. So we can get down to that, but this is
Yeah.
the basic gist. Yeah.
I also have to ask you then, putting aside what anybody's advice might have been for you, when you were there on the sets of A Suitable Boy, when you were doing those scenes with Double, I just want to know what your process was as an actor. What was going through your mind? Because she is one of the most exceptionally talented actors in India, you know, and not just in India. If you look at cinema across the world, name me one role that Tabu doesn't fit into effortlessly. You know, she is a master of her craft. So what was it like being with her in those scenes, being only 2 projects old as well? What was that like?
I think you've said it beautifully, man. I found myself saying the same thing, earlier today about her fitting effortlessly and seamlessly into anything that she does. And I think that is one of the qualities that I was awestruck by when I worked with her, and that I deeply admire and I observed strongly about her is that she her aura and her energy on set um, is very much like that. She's just easy, there doesn't seem to be much effort, there doesn't seem to be much um, obstruction in the way of her delivering her scenes, and just kind of flowing as an artist. She There isn't much complication. It's almost effortless. It feels effortless, and I really admire that. And it very very much was like that on set. I mean, we were able to um, you know do multiple readings together and meetings before having gotten down on set. So the groundwork was set for us, and um, I think we just developed an equation during that period, during that preparation period, and luckily I found. I mean, she's just wonderful. We luckily I found that she's mischievous and fun and comfortable, and we could talk about things, and we had similar opinions, and yeah, she's just. I mean, she's just easy.
Were you nervous,
Uh,
Ishan? Were
that's
you nervous?
probably what makes her such a great actor. You know, I I may have had some nervousness in the early days during the readings and such, but I can barely remember it because I think the energy was just so easy to just to be with her, just to be around her was it felt normal, it felt natural.
Well, a lot
It
of
didn't feel
people,
like an effort. So yeah.
a lot of people after watching the first episode were left shocked because sorry, after watching the first episode were left shocked because the first episode ends with you and Tabu, or you or Man and Saida by getting pretty steamy, you know. And to be honest, nobody really saw that coming. If you haven't read the novel, I hadn't read the novel. I didn't quite expect to see the steaminess that I did see. Not that it should be uncomfortable or unnatural, but
Steaminess.
well, I'm trying. I mean,
No,
I
it's
said
a top word, Harun. It's a
well,
top word.
I said to you that you and Double have sizzling chemistry on screen,
Thank
and
you.
you really
Thank you.
do, which is why those scenes seem even more. They stand out even more because that chemistry feels so raw and so real. How do you achieve that? You know, let's be truthful. There's a 20-year age gap between the two of you. She has played your brother's mum in another film. You know, there is a lot going on that you have to put aside in order to portray that convincingly.
Um, so luckily that never got in the way because it was never about Ishaan and Tabu. Um, it was always about Man and Saida, and the way that the characters are written. Um, I feel I truly, and I mean this with all my heart. I think it's a blessing that Tabu was playing the part of Saida because she is one such actor. You said a master of her craft who was able to put everything away and just step into the shoes of this woman, and such that is the appeal and the intrigue and the beauty of the story of Man and Saida and their unusual relationship. That there is so much uncommon between them. There is so much to make you feel like this obviously isn't an appropriate match. There is so much divide. She is a Muslim courtesan, who practices the arts of enticement, has been with many men, and this is what she has done all her life. And he is the son of a minister. He comes from a Hindu family. He's half her age, young man who is coming into his own, and is known in society as the revenue minister's son. It's highly unacceptable in his social strata, and despite all of this, uh, it feels like it feels like a, a justified relationship. It feels like they somehow fit together, and finding that that quality, and that balance was beautiful, because somewhere they fill a a gaping hole in each other, that a void which they complete each other's existence in a way that she, for her character, it's beautiful, because for her character, she's never been loved like that, you know and for Man, he gravitates towards a certain a certain kind of life that he doesn't come from. He doesn't identify with his life at home, and he feels like he's not understood by his father. So they sort of complete each other, and they give each other something that they couldn't have had from anywhere else. And so there's a beauty to it, which yeah. So I mean, that really is the relationship. It's a very specific relationship. It's not just about, oh, older woman, younger boy. It's very specific. It's highly unusual, of course, for 1951, but even in today's age, it would be a relationship such as this. And I don't think it could exist in any other universe than Meera Nair's Suitable Boy.
Well, I was about to say that because the sensitivity with which that storyline is handled, which still manages to make it look sensuous and allows that chemistry to come through, never feels sensationalist. It never feels like that relationship is being exploitative.
Exploited, yeah.
Do you hope to see that level of maturity in Hindi cinema when it comes to dealing with such relationships? Because there is a difference, isn't there, Ishaan? I don't think that in a mainstream Bollywood film, a relationship between an older woman and a younger man would be dealt with such
sensitivity.
Yeah.
Dil Chahta Hai.
Dimple Kapadia and Akshay Khanna.
Yeah, very, very different relationship.
Yeah.
But extremely, poles apart as a world, as a film. But I see commonality there. And I think it depends on the individual. I think it depends on how every individual decides to go about things. That was a very successful film as well, and I think it dealt with that theme beautifully. So I completely different again, but like, it's possible. Why not? You just have to make the right choices, and you have to put in the work and the thoughtfulness. But why not? I don't think that our audience is not ready for it, and I think that's hogwash. If you give them something really good, they'll be happy to consume it.
Well, it seems like you have managed to look at both Hindi cinema and global films and television with the same gaze, that you're looking at everything as at the merit of how good the script is. If you can look at a Suitable Boy and look at Khali Pili and be able to say you can straddle both worlds, that puts you in a very, it puts you not in a powerful position, but it puts you in a prime position to be approached for different kinds of work. Is that a conscious choice? Are you positioning yourself like that on purpose?
I'm also, what you're seeing today is also a result of the opportunities I've gotten. So, I'm very grateful that in my very first film, I couldn't have set that up for myself to have, gotten to work with Majid Majidi, and that set me off in a certain direction, and I wouldn't have it any other way. He taught me to value my craft in a way that that I will carry with me for the rest of my life. So I mean, I didn't consciously try and make this happen. I received both the opportunities, and I just thought it was wonderful that I could somehow do them both. And so I went ahead with it. And honestly, I mean, like I said, I feel gravitated towards anything that is complete in itself. It doesn't matter what kind of story it is. Every story influences its treatment and storytelling in a different way. every story can't be told in the same way. You can't take the same choices, you can't take the same approach, you can't take the same narrative tools. So a film like Khali Pili is an entirely different experience, from a Suitable Boy.
I don't even know what genre Khali Pili is. Can you tell us what
It's a
genre it
caper.
is?
It's
Okay.
a caper. It's sort of a thrilling, on the road drama. It's a complete Hindi picture experience.
Okay.
You get your bits of comedy, and there's dance, and there's all of that. But it's also just a very cool contemporary caper. It has, if I may say so, it has the coolness of a Guy Ritchie film in a certain sense.
Wow.
So it's a very different, again, a fun space. It's the first time I've juggled with action. So Khali Pili again is a first for me. It's my first hero role, as you would call it. My first two films, Beyond the Clouds and Dhadak, respectively. I was well aware that those aren't the conventional Hindi film hero roles, and it would be wrong on my part to play them that way, or to try and get that out of it. So I was very aware of that, but this film gave me that opportunity, and in a very fun way, in a way that I was excited about. So yeah.
You know the key difference, though, between your work here in the United Kingdom with A Suitable Boy and maybe Khali Pili that's releasing soon, hopefully. The difference is that in the UK, you're not expected necessarily to also be a personality on social media, to also be an extrovert and show a large part of your personal life on public display. Whereas in India and within Hindi cinema, your personality and your presence on social media, for most people, there are exceptions to the rule, but for most people, is very much part of how you sell yourself as a film star. Do you feel that pressure to be an extrovert, to show to show your personal life to a certain extent, to be a personality on social media as well?
No, I don't take it as pressure. I choose to share as much as I do. I'm not extremely extroverted on social media, and I feel like I give the audiences a lot more of myself through my work, and I'd rather keep it that way. I just find it, that's just how it is. I there's a lot more of the actual me in my work.
But do you agree that there is an expectation, or there's certainly an
I guess, I mean,
on it?
there's definitely a culture today of social media and actors being a very strong presence on social media, and they are also able to directly express themselves, and put out statements, and directly engage and interact with their audiences. And but again, there is a certain audience that is on the digital, mediums on social media, and then the audiences, the masses. We're a country of 1.3 billion. The people that come into cinema halls to watch our films are not necessarily all the people that follow you on social media. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely a distinction, and I do enjoy social media. I was on it. My account hasn't changed from the day I joined, which was years before I became an actor. And ever since that day, I think it's been maybe, I don't know, 7 or 8 years that I've been on, 6 or 7 years that I've been on Instagram. This is the only social media that I use. I haven't posted all too much, and I don't. Considering that I've been on for 7 years, and that's how I like to keep it.
It feels to me like today, people look at social media and your presence online as much as they look at your films or TV work, which I imagine.
Yeah, it's like a currency.
Exactly, which is completely different to how it might have been for your brother. Shahid Kapoor is an extremely popular and successful actor in his own right. But when he was delivering some of his biggest hits like Jab We Met, Kamine, or even Heather, which was only 2014, that
didn't even really exist. Yeah,
it didn't, right? I mean, do you think a bit of a peril?
I mean, during Heather, maybe it did, but it didn't. It wasn't what it is today, for sure.
Do you think that Do you think that it sometimes can overshadow the actual work? Do you think sometimes it's given too much importance?
Hey, I don't know. Maybe in certain cases. Maybe in certain cases. I mean, it depends on every individual how they choose to conduct their business, um, and I mean, I'm happy to use social media as a means to express myself or get my work out there. Share it with whomever would be following me. Um, yeah, so I kind of, yeah, I mean, I enjoy it, but I don't think it is a building block for my career as an actor. Like, I don't think it is like one of the foundational bricks in the building blocks of a career. That would be, I mean, like, I don't think it has anything to do with my craft and my ability and my capabilities, my adeptness as an actor. It shouldn't. So it's just a tool, it's a platform, and I would much prefer that people watch my work on as big a screen as possible. So I don't necessarily see the appeal in putting too much of my work out on the smallest screen that you possibly can.
Well, I'll tell you the one
So
good thing
yeah.
from your social media platforms is everybody wants to be able to dance like Ishaan Khatter because you are a very good dancer. And actually, we saw you do one dance sequence in Dharak, but we haven't really seen you dance properly on screen.
Yeah, that was me sort of dancing in character. It was just a freak out more than, there was one hook step and that was it.
Are we going to
So
get to see you dance properly in Khali Pili?
yes,
Okay.
yes, there is some dancing in Kalipili. Yeah.
And what about phone booth? Phone booth even. I was likely to say
Phone
phone
booth,
booth,
yeah.
but it's not phone booth.
Yeah,
It's
it's
phone
not phone
booth.
booth. It's phone booth. Booth, for the uninitiated, is the Hindi word for ghost. And yeah, and phone booth is a cracker of a script. It's again a completely new direction for me, and I'll be finding my feet in it again, and super excited about that because it's my first comedy, which is like a totally different craft. And it's an out and out comedy, and it's terrific. It's just it's meta, and it's out there, and it's just great fun. And Siddhant and I, are friends in real life. We have our own timing, and it's my first time working with Katrina, and Excel Productions with Farhan and Ritesh producing, and so it's many firsts again, and I'm super excited about that.
Just very quickly, there's not many people who can say 3 years into their career that they've worked in a Majid Majidi film, they've worked in a Dharma production, they've worked with Mira Nair, and they're also doing a film with Katrina Kaif. That's a pretty big thing to be able to say. Does it ever feel surreal? Does the journey ever feel surreal?
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot to be grateful for. I mean, if I would break it down, um, these are wonderful things that you mentioned. But even just to work with the people that I've worked on a more sort of microscopic level, I've had the opportunity, and just between A Suitable Boy and Kali Pili, to work with some amazing talents. Be it actors like Vijay Verma, Vijay Raz, Ranveer Shore, be it Jaideep Alawat, who is playing the antagonist in Kali Pili. I had an absolute blast also working with Ananya, who is coming into her own. It's a very exciting role for her. So I mean, it's been a great juggle, and Kali Pili and Suitable Boy. I'm not never going to forget this experience because I've only just started, and I found it extremely challenging to go from Kali Pili set to Suitable Boy because I had 2 days to make that transition, and I was all nerves about it. That, in fact, was one of the most daunting things I've done in my career so far. So, you know, uh, working with Tabu and working with Amira Nair and Majid Majidi on one hand, um, doing that, making that transition was the scariest thing for me because I needed to give all of myself to both of these parts, and so I had to do the preparation for both of them before I started shooting Khali Pili in September. So I mean, I'm very happy with the experiences. I'm very happy with the opportunities. I hope to continue, working like this and to continue working with wonderful people and just to make good films, just to make good cinema, just to, yeah, have a blast, make things that engage and excite and entertain people. And hopefully, there'll be something to take home as well.
Amazing. Well, Ishaan, we can't wait to watch all of it, the rest of A Suitable Boy, Khali Pili, and then Phone Booth next year as well. Wishing you all the very best of luck, and thank you so much.
Thank you, my brother. You take care.
If you enjoyed this, like and subscribe, and click the bell icon to keep up to date. For more great audio and video from the BBC, listen on Sounds, watch on iPlayer.